Right, I said last night it wouldn't take long, did I? Well, the statue toppling activists are coming after Captain James Cook, and again, right on cue, came renewed calls for the statue to be removed from Sydney's Hyde Park, following scenes around the world of statues of other historical figures being toppled down by the Black Lives Matter movement. The Prime Minister, whose own Sydney seat of Cook is named after the famed explorer, defended him on morning radio.
People's treatment in custody or things like that, fair issue, but now it's being taken over by other much more politically driven left-wing agendas. I've always said we've got to be honest about our history. We've got to acknowledge the positive and the negative, but I think we've also got to respect our history as well, and this is not a licence for people to just go nuts on this stuff.
All right, joining me now for their take on this and the other big issues of the day is my panel, Sky News host of Across Australia, Peter Gleeson in Brisbane, and Sky News host and Radio 2GB broadcaster, Chris Smith in Sydney. Well, it's called the cancel culture when we seek to remove anything that might offend political correctness, anything we might not agree with in our modern push to rewrite history. Yesterday, it was the statues. Today, I started my editorial with Gone with the Wind, pulled from a US streaming service. Other shows have been removed here as well, and now Captain Cook, they say, has got to come down. Rewriting history, Gleeson, very, very dangerous territory.
Well, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn about what they think about taking down statues. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, this PC culture is out of control. As the Prime Minister said on radio this morning, it's very, very clear that this particular issue has been hijacked by extreme leftists, and they've got their sights on, tearing down some of our obviously important national and significant statues. But I mean, why would we trash our history? Our history is important to us. The average Australian knows that we were founded by the British colony, and that is part of our culture. That's part of our history. We're taught that. We've got, the British culture and the British component as part of everything we do in our society. We're part of the Commonwealth. Why would we tear down a statue of Captain Cook? I think it's madness. It fits into the left narrative. I think we should just ignore it for what it is, and that is a terrible, terrible political stunt.
Yeah, I think the problem is, as the PM said, I think on Monday, we're starting to import problems that we don't have here in this country. Now, if last weekend's protests weren't enough, there's now another round of rallies planned for this weekend in Sydney. More than 2,500 people have already signed up to a second protest from Town Hall. Organisers claim that last week's Supreme Court appeal gives them the precedent, the right, they say, to protest. Now, I'm all for free speech. We're in very, very different circumstances at the moment. New South Wales Police Commissioner Mick Fuller has asked people not to attend.
If your son and daughter's coming, please talk them out of it. We know that 3,000 people together can't possibly overcome the health orders at the moment, which means we'll start writing tickets for $1,000, and we can use all of our powers to move people on. And if you don't move on, well, then you'll be arrested.
I'll tell you what, I hope he writes those tickets, Chris Smith, because so many people have abided by the rules, and I say particularly in relation to funerals, weddings too, but funerals I think have been the hardest hit area. We're either all in this together or we're not.
I've just had a conversation with the Assistant Commissioner, Mick Willing, who's been in court this afternoon, doing as hard as he possibly can to try and protect the health of the City of Sydney, to protect us all from these maniac protesters who have no sense of respect or care for those who might end up contracting this virus. I cannot believe this. After the criticism that they have copped from last week by the Prime Minister and the Premier and the Police Department, this is just picking a fight, Peter. They are purely picking a fight. There's going to be one on tomorrow night. They haven't even applied for a licence to hold a gathering. The one on Saturday, it doesn't matter what happens in court, they'll turn up too. But Mick Willing has told me a short time ago that won't be happening, that they will disperse this crowd, and that we have experience in dispersing large crowds. So this is a showdown, and I'm sorry, these people are doing nothing more than picking a fight.
Well, for everyone who did the right thing and has done the right thing since we went into lockdown on the 23rd of March, I say bring it on.
Yes.
Gleeson, up your way in Queensland, they say the hit to local businesses, in particular, obviously tourism's hit hard. These are numbers from the Chamber of Commerce, $27 billion. Now, enough's enough. Surely your Premier is going to turn up to the meeting tomorrow and say, all right, I get it, I hear you, I'm opening things up. Because I was staggered to read the Queensland government is said to be in talks with Air New Zealand to relaunch flights between New Zealand and Queensland, but no Victorians and no one from New South Wales.
It is madness. It's the worst political own goal I think I've ever seen in the history of Queensland politics, Peter. It's almost as if, and look, I want to give the Premier some credit in the way in which she handled the health aspect of this particular pandemic. She worked hard, she worked round the clock, and they did a good job in Queensland. But it's almost as if she's been abducted by aliens and they put some sort of card into her brain. I mean, seriously. I mean, leadership is about making tough decisions. She's gone into this, extraordinary sort of safety position, the fetal position, if you like, worried about, some sort of second wave. And here we've got protesters around Australia, including Brisbane, 30,000 last Saturday, where she basically said, just don't turn up instead of getting the police out and actually fining them. I can tell you now, Peter and Chris, I am getting at least a dozen emails or texts or phone calls a day from besieged business and tourism operators in Queensland who have got a diary up and they've circled October 31 and they're telling all their friends, all their colleagues, all their families to vote against the Labor Party because they just see this as the most nonsensical, disgraceful piece of political opportunism this state's ever seen.
Yeah, it's fascinating. We'll watch that date with interest. I think it's only going to get worse from here on in. Chris, I started the show talking about police. I really feel for those who wear the uniform. We had 4 police in Victoria recently killed in the line of duty. We say we all care about our first responders, our police in particular. Tuesday night, a 22-year-old police constable Nicole Welsh had a rock thrown at her vehicle, smashed the window, cut her neck. Now, she's just one of 2,500 New South Wales police officers injured in the line of duty every day. We're tarring them all with the brush. We're importing a US problem when in fact we don't have that problem here. We've always, by and large, I have to say, respected the uniform. Yeah,
exactly. And I would have thought the uniform, that is the police men and women in the force, it doesn't matter which state you talk about, I think that they don't have an intrinsically racial attitude towards another colour or a minority group. I don't think that that is prevalent in this country. It may have been prevalent, but it's not prevalent now, and we shouldn't accuse them of that. Now, I used to live near Boggabilla, where this attack took place, just near Moree for 2 years. I was in radio there. They have had kind of a running feud, the Aboriginal communities in Boggabilla and Moree, with local police. So this is nothing new, but these are just cowardly copycats. Cowardly copycats.
Yeah, I think it's a very worrying development that it keeps continuing on there. Chris Smith, Peter Gleeson, thanks for your time.
Thanks, Peter.